Hi everyone, I am Paula. Welcome to the Knitting Pipeline Extra. This is number 6. It's been a while since I last recorded. My husband is home from, whoops, forgot to put on my non-glare glasses. Hang on a second. Here we go. These are brand new. I can't get used to them, but I'm going to wear them just for you. Anyway, my husband is home for the summer on break. He's a professor at a local university, and there's a house going up next to us. I've been waiting all day for them to quit running the machinery and using the air gun, or whatever you call it, air hammer, I don't know. Oops, trying to fix my collar here. And they're still doing it, but anyway, I'm going to try to get this in because some of the things that I want to show you, I should have just left this alone, shouldn't I? Anyway, some of the things I want to show you are actually going to be given away soon, so I wanted to get there. That's a little bit better. I am PrairiePiper on Ravelry, and then you can find me on Instagram as Knitting Pipeline, and also on Periscope once in a while, I'm Knitting Pipeline. So those are the best ways to find me. And you can subscribe to the channel. By the way, I am going to pull some of my old tutorial videos off because I knew so little I didn't even focus the camera, and I'm always getting comments about they're out of focus. I don't blame people at all, but I'm going to pull those and redo some of those tutorials. So anyway, thank you for joining me, and what I'm going to do is share some knitting and some products that I've purchased or been given, and then I'll move into quilting. I don't have a whole lot of quilting, but I do have a finished quilt, so I will be showing that and a couple of other related things. The sweater I'm wearing is recently finished. It is the Calligraphy Cardigan by Fettig, who's also known as Knitbot, and I used the book Home and Away. Let's see, there's a subtitle, but I can't think of it. It's something about everyday essentials. I love this book. There's so many sweaters in there that I like, and a vest that my daughter-in-law noticed and said she'd like it, and I don't know why it wasn't on my radar. This sweater, a calligraphy cardigan, has been around since, I think, 2011, and this is a rework of the pattern in Quince & Company Chickadee. I don't have it buttoned all the way, but here. See, I probably could have gone down a size, but I was worried about it being too small. So it's a little on the roomy side, but I like it. It's meant to be a comfy sweater that I can wear. I am probably going to add pockets to it. So I knit the 38, and I probably should have done just a little bit less. So anyway, real happy with that. And then I think not the last episode, but maybe the one before, I had started on my Sans Serif sweater, which is by Elizabeth Doherty from her book, Top Down, Reimagining Set-In Sleeve Design, and I have since finished that. And this one is a little more fitted. I don't think I've shown this. I hope not. I don't think I have. But I love the neckline on this. I like that it scoops down. And that doesn't look so good, does it? There we go. I kind of have to situate it a little bit, but once I get it on, it's fine. Let's see if I can fix it so it doesn't look weird. Oops. I cannot get used to this mirror image thing. I'm sorry. Goodness sakes, it's really confusing for me. I would be terrible trying to drive on the other side of the road, I can tell you that. Well, you get the idea. It's all askew. Okay, this is this side. I need to pull it in. Okay, there we go. All right. Anyway, forget that. Anyway, you can see it fits. It has wonderful pockets, and I love the color. It's Quince & Company Lark in the Dogwood colorway. And I can't remember what size I made. It's been a while. I sewed the buttons on with the yarn, the same color in Finch, which is what I did the pockets in. That's what the pattern calls for, which is brilliant. And I never thought of sewing buttons on with the sweater yarn, but my goodness, it goes so fast, and you don't have to worry about the, whoops, wrong side. You don't have to worry about the thread cutting into the yarn, the part of the sweater. It's really efficient. I used a matchstick on top of the button. I got that in a tutorial I watched on YouTube. So I put a square wooden matchstick to keep this up a little bit, and then take the matchstick out, and that gives you the extra room to make the shank underneath. And it worked great. These buttons I got on Etsy from a shop called Supplies and Sundries or something like that. Anyway, it's in an episode note. And they're really inexpensive, lightweight wooden buttons. Okay, now it's too warm to be wearing sweaters today. It's in the 80s out there, although that's cooler than it has been. Okay, my little granddaughter has a birthday coming up, her very first, and so I've knit a couple things for her. This is Mignon. It is a sweater by Loop, the London shop. I've knit this before in a cotton, and this is the second time. I'm not sure I'm going to make it again because I don't know how well it's going to fit. We'll see. Time will tell. If it fits, it's definitely worth doing again. There we have it straight. But as you can see, I think the armholes are a little deep. I don't know. We'll see how it works, but it's fun to knit. The increases to make it flare out like that are done by making the cables bigger, and it's super simple. Here's the back. I like the way it flares out. I used Two Guys Yarn Company in their, let's see, I have it in my notes, MCN collection. It's a DK weight, and the color is Plum Majesty, and then the button it's like a wooden button, maybe it's resin, I don't know, but it has a floral on it, and I thought that kind of set it off. So I eked it out. In fact, I messaged Gene from Two Guys Yarn Company to ask him if I could purchase another skein, but then it turned out I was going to be so close. I ended up taking out, this is a little shorter than the pattern called for, I ended up taking out the bottom, and I ended up having just this much left for the whole sweater. So I eked it out, but yeah, there's no sizing on it. It's just one size. So if you make it, it's a little risky, but we'll see. If she looks cute in it, then who knows? I might make more for somebody else, but probably that'll be the only one for her. And then I made her a, let's see, lemon chiffon. I made this for her before she was born last year, and I made it in the newborn size. And this is the 12-month. I think it's 12 to 18 months, but I made it a little smaller in some areas because she's a little bit petite. So I'm going to get it a little higher. There we go. It's by Taiga, Hilliard. And I used Frog Tree Peekaboo, which is a cotton bamboo blend, which means it has a nice drape to it. I did add the picot bind off on the sleeves, which I think is kind of cute. And then it has, in the back, it has a little keyhole, and I put a vintage button, square button on there. So I hope it fits her. If it doesn't fit her now, she'll grow into it, and I know it's not too small. So I think in the winter, they could put a onesie or something underneath it. So that is Lemon Chiffon. I haven't talked about these two on the show yet, on the audio, because they'll be in the next episode, I think, but I'm going to give them to her for her birthday. I also did one other little baby cardigan. I did the 4th time I've knit May by Melissa LaBar, and I gave that away. It was red, and it was in Sublime, and I just love that. Absolutely love that pattern, but I'm tired of it for now, so I think I'll probably take a sabbatical from it. Oh, and then my box of socks. Excuse me, I have to go reach a little bit. My husband's birthday was in early May, and I showed some of these before. I knit him a box of socks for his birthday, And I think they might be in order, but I'm going to show you. We'll pull them all out. I got the box at Target, and I just purchased another one because I've decided I'm going to fill up another box for him. But I'm pretty sure you saw these. So boy, they look dark here, don't they? And these are 3-in-1 rib. And that was indigo dragonfly, I think. Or no, dragonfly fibers. And then these are another Crafty Girl. Those are just a plain, I think I did these. Oh, they have the, I think that was my fish, yeah, that was the Fish Lips Kiss Heel I did for the first time. And then these are Knit Picks Felici, just a regular one with a standard heel flap and gusset. And then I might have shown these before. He hasn't worn any of these yet. I told him he had to wait till I did it on the show. So those are Socks That Rock, Blue Moon Socks That Rock. And then I think, the one I said was Dragonfly Fibers was not, but I don't remember now what it is because I remember now this one was Dragonfly Fibers. And this is the colorway called Mushroom Hunting. And I did a 3-in-1 rib, which is my favorite, I think. And then this one has a standard heel. I ran out of yarn, so I have some different colors there on the end. They're still running the machine over there. Boy, I'll be glad when that house is finished. And then this is Into the World. I don't remember the name of the color, but it's a 3-in-1 rib, and I really enjoyed knitting these. Oh, I meant to bring a bag over, and maybe I'll have a photo. Helen Stewart gave me a bag that she purchased from, I think it's Wool and Flower, and it was a gift when she came to the Knitting Pipeline Georgia retreat, and it matched this yarn perfectly. She did not know I had this yarn. She didn't know I was knitting socks out of it, so that was pretty special. It looks like the bag was made, or the yarn was dyed to match the bag. It was so funny. And then these are from Kate Atherley's book, Custom Socks, and they're called, I don't remember, sorry, but they're on my project page. Everything's on my project page. I'm pretty good at putting things in there. But anyway, they took forever. There were so many twists on the cables, and my husband does wear a size 12, 12 and a half. Oh my goodness. You have to learn to knit without a cable needle if you want to do something like this. I can't even imagine how long it would have taken if I had not done that. And I do have a tutorial about cabling without a cable needle that kind of helped me to remember. And I ran out of yarn, which is fine. I'm kind of liking this. I use up all the yarn and then I finish off the toe in something kind of wild because who's going to see that? Only the wearer knows. So that's fine with me. Anyway, he was real excited, and now he can wear them now that you've seen them. And I've already started on another pair that might be his, or they might be birthday socks for two of our boys have August birthdays. So I make socks for them, and I don't know, we'll see. But I'm enjoying having a pair of socks on the needles most of the time. So after I did all those, for 7 pair for the box of socks. And that was about a pair a month, I suppose. And then I knit these for myself. These are for my own size foot, size, I don't know, 6.5, 7. These are made out of Dancing Dog Dye Works. And this beautiful yarn, they look quite different. Sometimes it depends on which way they are. Well, they look the same now. But anyway, this was on the free table at the Georgia retreat. It was donated by Sydney, and it had this companion yarn in the lime green, and it was so fun to knit with. Sydney, I don't know why you put it on the free table, but thank you very much. If you want the rest of it, I'll send it to you. So I just enjoyed these. They're just plain. I didn't put any ribbing in them, and yeah, they took me a while just because I had other things going on, but they're just a plain sock, no ribbing. Enjoyed that. Wow, I've already whipped through all my projects here, but 2 sweaters, yeah, that took a while. So a couple of other things I have acquired, and This is Lollipop Yarn. It was given to me by Joe. Thank you, Joe. I just enjoy looking at this. Someday I will make socks out of it, but in the meanwhile, I can just enjoy it. It's called Birds of a Feather, which is why I think she gave it to me. And she gave that to me in Georgia. Isn't that gorgeous? Wait, the camera focuses pretty well when I do that. Okay, so I don't know how they wind these just so perfectly tensioned so that it's not a real hard ball, it's not too soft, and it's just gorgeous. And then related to that, let me get up. Sorry, this is in a plastic bag. When we were at our kids in May, sorry about the flashing, that's just a truck out there that the sun's reflecting off of it. I can't control that. I had a night that I was up for a while, had a little insomnia, and what does one do when you can't sleep? Order yarn. Anyway, I had heard about night owl fibers, and I went to her Etsy shop and I saw this colorway. It's called Sherlock Holmes, and the base is merino nylon, 463 yards. And so I bought it, and I don't regret it at all, even though I have been on a yarn fast. When you can't sleep, so what? So I was so impressed. It was very reasonable for all the work that goes into self-striping and the way that it is wound. It was, I think, $23. So for self-striping, I think that's amazing. And she's quite young. She's, I think, about 20 and has some designs on Ravelry. And I thought it was packaged really nicely. Oh, good. They're all leaving now, so no more stuff out there. There was some tea in there, some Stash, Spice Dragon, Red Chai, caffeine-free, perfect for me. There was a little Night Owl Fibers mini skein. There was some green tea. And then there was a handwritten note. Yeah, it said, "Hi, Paula, thank you so much for your order from Night Owl Fibers. Sherlock Holmes is one of my favorite colorways. Enjoy. Happy knitting. Rachel." There it is. I thought that was super nice. I don't order a lot on Etsy except for buttons, but I was impressed with the whole thing. Okay, he had to come back for something. Now he's really going. All right. So a couple of things that you might be interested in are, these are acquisitions from the Georgia retreat, so I haven't shown these yet on the show. These were a gift from Sue M. Whitkin. There are 2 skeins of flock and needle, which is something I'm not familiar with, and I should have looked up where this is made. I don't think Sue told me, but it is a sport weight, and the color is Painter's Smock, superwash merino. There's no nylon in it, which is fine. And I'm wondering if maybe it's Australian because Sue lives in Australia part of the year. But anyway, it's gorgeous, and I'm trying to figure out, I kind of think I know what I'm going to do with it, but I haven't decided completely. That's called Flock and Needle. And then Helen gave me some yarn, Life in the Long Grass. It's so funny because ever since I've received this, I've just seen this yarn. It heightened my awareness probably. I'd probably seen it before, but I kept seeing it online. And this is called Coastal, the colorway, and it feels like it's a blend of some kind. Here it is. Merino and silk, 50% silk, 100 grams. Life in the Long Grass, LITLG. I follow them now on Instagram. Isn't that gorgeous? I love the sheen. I should have guessed it was silk in there. Thank you, Helen. You're way too generous and too good to me. And then Sydney, who had already put the free stuff out. I don't normally take things from the free table at my retreats, but sorry, I couldn't help it because I'd never used Dancing Dog Dye Works, and it was such a treat to see it there. And also, I have to say, I probably wouldn't have purchased that colorway, but I enjoyed it so much because it was out of my comfort zone. This is Hue Loco. This was from Sydney, and it has a little Progress Keeper on there, which is a little bunny. It's very cute. And I don't know how she knew, but this is just perfect for me because I'm always looking for colorways that I can knit socks for my guys. And they're pretty good. I mean, I venture into some unusual things with them, but I do love this. It's grays and tans with little flecks in there, and I'm going to really enjoy. This is the Phyllis Sock. It's 80/20 merino nylon, and the colorway is Lark. I should turn them this way. I don't know why I don't think of doing that, but there we go. That's that. And then the next product is something that is a crossover from quilting and to knitting, because I think, oh no, wait, there's one more yarn purchase. I'm sorry. It's not a purchase, it's a gift. This is really special yarn. It is from our flock. It is from the Abbey of Regina Laudis in Bethlehem, Connecticut. It was given to me by Irene. Thank you, Irene. She's Bluebird's Nest on Ravelry. This is Shetland wool raised from sheep on the grounds of this abbey, and they have a very small flock. So they don't produce a lot of yarn, and I just think this is gorgeous. It's a 2-ply sport, 250 yards, and I think the sheep's name is Celeste. Color black and Celeste white. But it's really gorgeous. One of those little treasured skeins. So I have to find something really special to do with that. Feels very holy here. Holy yarn. Okay, now this is the crossover product that I wanted to tell you about. So I think even knitters will benefit from this, because even though it's not technically knitting, almost all of us have to at some time use sewing thread. And this is a product called Thread Magic. I have never heard of it, but one day I was at Joann Fabric. I was buying something and it was by the cash register, which, yeah, I'm a sucker. Okay, I picked it up and applied a coupon or something to it. I don't even know how much it cost, really, but it's called Thread Magic, and it's a little, this is what it's in, a little, I don't know, it's not very big. Cap comes off, and then it's like beeswax, but you use it like you would run your thread through beeswax. I have had the worst time when I'm sewing a binding on a quilt where the thread knots, and I don't use a really long strand. I know that's part of it. I have very high quality thread. It's Aurifil, which runs about $13 a spool, so it's not cheap. And I did ask at the quilt shop if maybe for hand sewing that I should use a different thread, and they said no, just use Aurifil's fine. So I did, but I've just had a terrible time. And this, and I have run it through beeswax to see if that would help, but this has helped the knotting. I'd say it reduced it by 90%. I still occasionally have a little bit, but it's been like a miracle. So you pull your thread through, you take the cap off, lay the thread across, put the cap on, and then there are little, you probably can't see them here, but little holes. You pull it through and it conditions the thread. You can feel a little bit of it on there, but it's a conditioner basically for the thread. It says strengthens thread for long life, eliminates static, prevents tangling in fraying, does not melt or freeze. For bobbins, hand sewing, I guess you can put it on your machine and your bobbin or your thread can run through it, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to risk getting anything in my machine, but wow, I really recommend Thread Magic. And I think they have a companion product called Thread Cube, and that's the one I think that runs through your machine. But anyway, when I looked it up on Amazon to link it, there's another product called Thread Heaven that's very similar, and a lot of people said that it did the same thing and was half the price. So I'm happy with this, and I'm happy to pay whatever it was. that has made my life easier. So maybe that'll help you too. Okay, let me look over my notes here. I think I have everything, so we'll move on to quilting. I'm going to shut this off and regroup just a little bit. Okay, I'm back. We're back with quilting. And I wanted to share, I think it was in the last episode, I talked about Block Magazine and Jenny Doan and how much I like her tutorials and the Missouri Star Quilt Company. And it wasn't but like a day or two after that episode went up that I received this letter, and I asked her if I could share on the show. She said, "Hello from Missouri. Dear Paula, first I'd like to thank you for your podcast. I drive 45 minutes to work and home every day, and I have been listening to your back episodes as well and current ones, and it keeps me entertained as I travel. I was thrilled when you mentioned you are a quilter. I work at Missouri Star Quilt Company in Hamilton, Missouri. My sister-in-law is Jenny Doan, and she makes video tutorials on YouTube using her patterns and the company's fabric. We have 12 shops in the town of Hamilton, each with its own theme. I am the shop lead of the Primitives and Wool with Yarn Shop. We have a small selection of yarn that we are testing to see what response the visiting quilters will have to a yarn shop in Quilt Town, USA. So far it's doing okay, but we have such a small selection that we aren't promoting it very much at this time. Then she goes on a little bit about that, but she said, I am just about the only knitter in a town of quilters, and I find it hard to talk knitting with anyone. They look at me like I am speaking Greek. So listening to your podcast helps me connect with a knitting community. Thank you again. If you ever find your way to our little town of Hamilton, Missouri, please stop into the Primitives and Wool with Yarn Shop and say hello." And then she linked to the Missouri Star Quilt Company YouTube tutorials. And I wrote back to her and I said, "You are Jenny Doan's sister-in-law. I know exactly who she is." I felt like I was meeting a celebrity, so that was quite fun. And yeah, it was really fun. I asked her if I could share that on the show because now I feel like I have even a better connection to the Missouri Star Quilt Company. And since then, I've received another issue of Block, which is the magazine I told you about last time. And I have several patterns marked in here. I have the Disappearing 4-patch, which looks really fun. I'm trying to hold that, and well, you can't really see, can you? There, maybe you can see here. There we go. A little glare on it, but not too bad. And all of these will look way more complicated than they really are. You can totally, I think, wow people. And then there's the Missouri Star, which is a classic one, and she has a unique way of putting it together with pre-cuts. And then I've also tabbed one called Crosswalk, which is using a jelly roll. The other thing I marked in here is a tutorial on cutting up fat quarters. So if you don't have the pre-cut, this tells you all the different ways you can cut up a fat quarter to get the equivalent of pre-cuts, like a jelly roll or a charm pack or some of those. So those are just some of the things in there. And like I said last time, this is a subscription. The individual issues are $6, $5.99, and I think that's the same price that you pay if you subscribe. And it's just a real treat to get this in the mailbox. So I highly recommend Block. Oops, sorry, that. The last thing I have to show you today is the quilt I just finished. I mean, I just literally finished it yesterday. My nephew got married in Minneapolis on June 4th. And I can't tell you how hard it was to go to Minnesota in a way that weekend when I knew I was going right past the zombie apocalypse. But maybe I'll get to go next year. Anyway, I made this quilt. And when I saw the fabric, I've known they were getting married for a year or so. And I've been thinking about making a quilt for them. And when I saw the fabric, it just was so perfect because my nephew has traveled all over the world. He's been to South America, various countries in Asia, Europe, all over. And so he loves to travel. He does woodworking. He learned from my dad, and they have a clock collection. So when I found this, and I think I showed the jelly roll on another episode, when I found this, the fabric, it just was perfect, because if you can see, if we see, well, there's the music, there's passport stamps, there's the passport stamps there. There are maps. I think this is what you'd call steampunk. Newspapers. Oh, just so much. It's so perfect for him. And then my new niece-in-law is a musician, and the back is music. So I think they are really going to love this. So what I did is I just made, I'm going to step way back so you can see. I put together the half square triangles. This is what I consider, actually. I consider this the top, but it doesn't really matter. It's rectangular. I put together half square triangles, and then I just played around with them and came up with this. Whole thing. I didn't put a border on it. I just put the black binding, which was a bit of a pain in the neck. I could not even see the thread on it, but I'm so excited to mail it to him. And I have enough left. I probably could make a pillow. I didn't want to make anything bigger than a throw size. I don't want to burden people with something so big that they think they have to put it on their bed forever. But this is something that's just going to be, I hope, a handy size for them. Well, here's the clock fabric along with the music. They have a clock collection. So they're on their honeymoon now, and they went to Paris, Greece, and so I'm going to ship this off as soon as they get home, and I'm really excited about it. So there's kind of a trend with the modern quilts, more modern quilts, to not do a border and just put the binding directly on. Boy, you can't see that very well against my black top, but there it is. And the rulers, oops, over here, made me think of his woodworking where he's measuring things, and he really appreciates handmade things. So something else I was going to say about that. I have washed and dried this already, and I'm going to, oh, and I did put a label on it. I put my knitting pipeline, I ordered these labels. I put the knitting pipeline, where is it? There it is. The knitting pipeline label on it. That's going to probably look backwards, doesn't it? Yeah, I don't know. And then you can't see this, but I put their name. I wrote their name and names and their wedding date on there. I just did that in fabric pen. I probably should have embroidered it, but I didn't want to. Anyway, I debated whether I was going to, when I went to Minneapolis, I was going to take it to Nancy, who often finishes my quilts, but because it's throw size, I decided to do it myself. And I also felt like it would be fine with Stitch in the Ditch. So that's what I did. And I don't know if you can see on the back, I just did, I don't know if you'll be able to see the quilting. It's just really simple. Yeah, just simple lines. The rule of thumb is that if you're using like a cotton batting, you should be able to fit your hand between the quilting. So you get me here, like the quilting should be at least close enough that the span of your hand is can fit within it. No, extends over it is what it is. It's the opposite of that. So anyway, that is a quilt that I'm really excited to finish. And the next thing I'm going to do is add a few more squares to the Quilt As You Go. So yeah, pretty excited. And I did use Jenny Doan's tutorial on the binding. Last time I said that it hadn't worked for me that well, but I figured out it's not the part about measuring, it's another part that I wasn't getting quite right. So I did use her tutorial on the binding here, because when you connect the binding, you have to get it just right to meet up So that is all I have for you today, and I see my husband is coming home. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to subscribe, that would be great, and feel free to leave a comment below as well. Hi, well, I'm back. My husband came home, and I was rushing through the end of that because I knew he would make too much noise. And there were some things I forgot to tell you about the quilt, so I'm back, and I'll just wrap it up here. The basic unit of the quilt is the half square triangle, which looks like this. And I got the tutorial from, it's called Cutting Corners Quilt from Missouri Star Quilt Company. And that is the basic quilt I made. I just rearranged it slightly because she had all the squares lined up exactly the same way, and I just flipped half of them. So that's how it ended up that way. But the way I used to make the half square triangles, and I think the traditional way before was to take like 2 squares like this, put them right side together, and then you would draw a line. I'll use myself as a pin, as a design board here. You draw the line. Oh, this is not going to work with me and the backwards stuff. But anyway, you draw a diagonal line from corner to corner, and then you would sew 1/4 of an inch on either side of that center line, and then cut down the center line with your rotary cutter. And then you would have 2 identical pieces. You would open them up and press them, and then you'd have a half square triangle. It wouldn't be this big if you made it out of those. But the new way of doing it that she has figured out is that you take a 10-inch square. This is a package of 10-inch squares called a layer cake, or 10-inch squares. This is Best of Morris. I don't want to take it out of the package till I'm ready to use it, but I've used this fabric twice already. So anyway, you take one of these, and in this case it was, well, I'm going to explain that a little bit, but say you would take a solid and one of these. Wouldn't have to be a solid, but anyway, you put the right sides together, and then you sew 1/4 of an inch all the way around the outside of the 10-inch square, and then you cut corner to corner and corner to corner, and you have 4. And it is a lot quicker, and I think that they are more accurate if you get your 1/4 inch seams right. Now, the difference here was that, and you might have been wondering, if you remember, I said this, I made this out of a jelly roll. It was actually, this is not one piece of fabric here, this part. They are 2.5-inch strips. So the way that that quilt was made was that you took your 10.5-inch strips and sewed, oh, excuse me, 2.5-inch strips. I said 10 before too. They're 2.5-inch strips. And so 5 of them together. And so they would be really long. And this is just a piece of it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'd sew those together and then cut them so that you have a square. So that's how the fabric squares were made. And then the black, of course, that was just a solid piece. So then I had these, and I would put this piece face down or face up and put a black piece on top of it, sew around the edge, and then cut the 4, and then I'd have 4 half square triangles. So that is how it's made, and the inspiration is from the Cutting Corners quilt by Missouri Star Quilt Company, and it's mostly that quilt, only I just flipped around part of it. So I wanted to share that with you, and I think that that's about it, although I see a quilt over here that I'm going to show you. And so I'm just going to duck out of the frame just a bit. This is the smallest quilt I've ever made. It's smaller than a standard sheet of paper. And I started making it, I think, excuse me, I think about 1985. And I finished it in 2015 as part of my finish up all kinds of things, not just knitting, and I put a little border around it. But this was done, I think it's a lot like paper piecing, where there was a little stamped square, and it had basically the design on it. And then you would cut these little strips and put them down. I mean, they are tiny. Each piece on this is probably only about 1/4 of an inch. So yeah, it was fun at first, not so much later, but I finally did finish it, and I did put a label on the back there. So it says, I think it says 1985 and then 2015. So it's a small project, but it took a long time. So I wanted to share that with you. Thanks so much for watching. You can find me on Ravelry as PrairiePiper, and the show notes are found at knittingpipeline.com. Thanks so much.